Welcome to our talk. We're the Inspec engineering team on what's new in Chef InSpec 4. Oh, is this working?
I think it's the bottom buttons. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Technical difficulties.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe just okay. I'm Keka Ichinose, product manager for InSpec, and this is
I'm Maya Johnson.
Yeah, and just quick disclaimer: I'm a new product manager to Chef. New as in this is week 2. So more than likely, all the technical questions you're gonna have, I'm gonna have to defer to Maya on. So yeah, we're gonna do our best here. So all right, so what do we got on the docket? So a lot of word salad, right? So name change, licensing, name credentials, all sorts of crazy stuff. Needless to say, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to go through. So we'll go through that, and yeah, and then we'll take questions at the end. So so the first thing is the name change, logo change. You kind of heard Corey talk about it at the keynote this morning. How we're kind of reframing how we look at Chef and the whole thing. And specifically, I think most of it came around the whole chef confusion thing, And so I was just like, okay, so now we're gonna have Chef Infra, but hey, while we're at it, maybe we ought to kind of be more consistent with the naming with the other products as well. So hence we moved from Inspec to Chef InSpec. And so you've probably seen that, and you've already seen that on the site and everything already as well. So. All right, so so licensing changes, as you have all heard about as well, with the recent update to the licensing. We're basically, we just updated verbiage and everything like that. So you're going to have to reaccept licensing if you're installing fresh. If this is going to be an update and you've already accepted once, you're not going to see this again. So yeah, it's a one-time act per node, and it can also be done not just in InSpec, but if you've got multiple products going on, it can all be accepted generally from multiple tools because it can be done indirectly, essentially. So we'll go through just so that for your own edification, what it would look like from an interactive mode perspective. So you do an inspec exec. This is your first time running inspec after you just installed, and then you'd have everything going on here. CLI mode, you got your argument there for Chef license, accept. You can also accept silent, so if you're using a CI system or whatnot, and you don't want to have to deal with extra verbiage and just let everything go through, then there you go. And so let's talk about how that looks from the gem packaging perspective. So kind of overall, the idea here is that anything that's a binary that's downloaded from downloads.chef.io is going to be where you're going to have to accept the licensing. But the inspec library is an example of one where that will not be the case because it's not a binary, you're just including it. So Maya, did you want to add anything other than that?
Like audit cookbook or kitchen inspec should all be handled by the Chef licensing. But yeah, if you're requiring inspec as a library, that's gonna be fine.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll package it.
Yeah, if we package it for you, then it's licensed, yeah. Sorry. Okay. So some changes now we're going to talk about, new changes between Chef InSpec and AWS. Resource pack. So this is a big change, right? Well, and so I was actually brought up to speed on the history of this, I guess, evidently, and I'll just kind of bring all the bullet points to bear. Oops, went too far. So as I understood it, it was the AWS resources were on their own resource pack to begin with years ago, and then were incorporated into the core, into InSpec core. But kind of now, as we're expanding now with new cloud integrations coming out and everything like that, we kind of said that, hey, look, AWS as well as all those cloud integrations need to be their own first-class citizens. So we need to take it back out, have it be its own GitHub project, everything. And so that's kind of what we kind of did or that we are doing here with AWS resources.
Breaking it out into its own resource pack should help increase development speed too, as we don't have to do a release of InSpec every time, which then we'd have to do a release of Chef DK and so forth. Yep. So now you can just require the resource pack.
Yeah, and this also, and obviously this is all common sense for y'all, right? It's if you're using Azure, why would you want all the AWS stuff that's inside a core? It doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Keep everything lightweight, keep you more agile, keep you moving along. So it all makes sense, right? Oh wait, one thing I missed was that So as of inspec 5, so the next version, right? So core inspect things will be removed. So just FYI, but you should already be getting warnings of that with inspec 4. So just keeping that in mind. And so yeah, so how would you use this, right? Or so how would you go about doing this? Just kind of how you're all used to with using the profile metadata. So you just do a depends with your inspec-aws and with the URL, and there you go.
And
Oh.
Yeah, if you're in an air-gapped environment or you want to carry around everything, you're going to want to use inspec vendor to pull it all in.
Yep.
So you can package it up.
Thank you. SDK v3. So the underlying library has been finally updated to AWS SDK v3 from v2, and this is across all our packages. So everything is obviously now made more lightweight and it's more future-proof. Yeah, all the things up there. New resources. So these are 15 new resources. I didn't count it, so my bad. But there's 14 new resources that have been added to the existing 45, which should now give us a grand total of, click, 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 59. So 59 resources now for AWS. Yeah. All right, so multi-region support. So we added multi-region support. So if you're going to be doing something, if you're going to be crossing regions, doing calls cross-region inside of AWS, you now have a way to be able to do that. I don't know how much more I'd have to add to that.
Yeah, that should be fun.
Okay, so next thing we want to kind of talk about is named credentials. So this was something that was asked for. And I totally get the use case here too, just kind of even coming into this new, right, is the idea that, because I've had this issue when I've been an engineer, DevOps, and having to enter in all the different string information for user host, just to connect to something, and having to do that over and over and over, especially if stuff breaks in the middle of my runs and things like that. And so it's a big pain in the ass. So if I was able to have that be incorporated somewhere, in a centralized area, and I can just reuse those creds again, kind of like that, then that would be great. And so this is something that folks had asked for, and so we've now added that there. If you run into an instance where, so if there's an instance where someone puts in, like maybe they mistyped my creds or something, they put my cred because they thought it was my cred, not my creds, then what will happen though is that it'll just, so in other words, if there's an error inside of the configuration, it'll just fall back to the host user, like that format, if it's not there. So, and the idea here was that, the main idea here too is that you don't want to have cred information just exposed out there on your command line for obvious reasons. And so having that kind of abstracted away into another areas.
And if you need to have multiple sets of credentials for different sets of servers,
cool.
Makes it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. All right, updates between Chef InSpec and Habitat. So you got chocolate in my peanut butter. Oh, I really want a peanut butter cup now. So you guys already know that you can use Habitat to run inspec, right? So when you do your scan jobs and things like that, that's kicking off inspec, right? But did you know that you can now do inspec validation against your Habitat environment? Like this is kind of like, it kind of made sense. It's kind of like the next evolution of things. But so we have an MVP of that. So yeah, we're going to definitely be aiming toward the community to see like what you think and what you would like to see from it. But to give you some examples of what you can do here with inspec and Habitat. So let me just pull these all up here. So yeah, being able to check that for your Habitat service that telnet should not exist, or that you don't want to include a compiler inside of your packages, things like this. So obviously this is just getting started. So definitely feel free. We want to get your feedback and hear about what else was interesting that you'd want to look at inside of Habitat. So the next thing we're talking about is renaming of attributes to inputs. And so this is, okay, yeah, let me just go ahead and get the bullets. So this was another one that I got schooled on just a little earlier, so hopefully I don't misspeak, so Maya can correct me on it. But so attributes, there was confusion because Chef Infra uses attributes, and people were thinking that when they were setting up their profiles that they could do the same thing. They could treat attributes inside of inspec the same way they did inside of Chef Infra, but they were not the same. And so we heard enough feedbacks from that saying, y'all should really call it something else, like it's, because it's confusing us as users. And that absolutely makes sense. And so we were renaming attributes to inputs. And so yeah, kind of in your metadata, DSLs, things like that, it's all renamed. We are able to handle that. And there'll be warnings. So there's no warnings in inspec 5, but there will be warnings starting from inspec 6. So kind of to keep you up there. Is there any other further on there? We did a overhaul, as like an internal overhaul, like performance-wise and stuff for priorities. Basically what we did was we made it more deterministic, more extensible. The way it works is that the highest priority wins if you got a certain precedence. So in this particular case here, like if you have your YAML and you've got this input value 42 and its priority there is 30, and then down below in the controls you see it's, there, DSL has 12, 42 will win because it has a higher priority. So it's the same precedence that things that you saw inside of inspec 3, but just works a little bit differently internally. So
it gives you a little bit more flexibility as far as like if you're using a community profile or sharing profile across things, you can still change the values at a higher level.
And so the event log, so just to go back, because I had to touch on this point, I didn't. So each value set is an event, which has a priority. So the way we did the event logging for this is that it's a priority. The priority, if it kind of throws you off the whole priority system, we're trying to make it easier for you to kind of debug whenever you have like conflicts or when you think something that was supposed to be higher priority, it turns out to be lower priority, so on and so forth. And so kind of an example here that you see is kind of taken from the last slide was, so you have priority 30 here in the metadata file 42, and then DSL is at 12, priority 20, and the value is 12 there. And this is what the log would look like here. So you've got your one create event, and then you've got the metadata event that's logged and the DSL event that's logged. So it should be very clear kind of what's going on. And then finally, the input system itself is now pluggable. So it uses the same plugin system developed in inspec 3. And the major goal of the input overhaul was to enable the pluggability. And so future plans, we're still working on this right now, but there's plans that we've got set up to have a Chef Infra attributes plugin, CLI inputs, and then also obviously whatever the community at large wants to kind of build and integrate with. So. And that is it. So kind of quick, but any questions for us? It is definitely the ending of the day, is it not? Awesome.
So I have a question about, so I run into a use case a lot where I want to use the same inspect test for, say, rel 6 and rel 7, but I might have slightly different configurations for rel 6 and rel 7.
Sure.
So my expectation would be I could write an if statement that would say, if the OS version is 6, check for this one thing. If it's 7, check for this other thing. And instead, I have to have two separate inspect profiles. So is there a plan of doing something like that, or even putting like a not if or something?
There's an only if command actually, and the only if you can pass a conditional to say like only if platform is rel 6.
Really?
Yeah.
When was that added? Do you know?
Like a year ago.
Okay, so it's relatively recent.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question. Yes.
So using include instead of attribute, is that in inspec 4 or is it will be inspec 5?
It's inspec 4, but attributes will still work. Sorry, the question was, is the input system in inspec 4 or is it only in 5? But it's in inspec 4 now, but both systems will work. And there will continue to be work on that through 5. I mean, for long, forever, but in 5 it'll start giving out the warnings. And then, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Give everybody time to migrate.
No more? Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming. Give you back some time, back to your day.